Hi, in this video, I will use Blender geometry nodes and shading nodes to create this text animation. As you can see, we have a text string over here and there is a shiny reflection moving across this string. So let's see how it is done. Let's move on to the geometry nodes tab. Here we have our default cube. Select it and press new. So this will create a new geometry nodes graph. Select both the nodes and press S to stretch it. Since we will be working with text, so we don't need this geometry, this cube. So let's delete it. And now I'll search for a node called string to curves. Connect it to the output. And over here you can enter your string that you want to display. Let's use champ. Okay, so this is our text string. Right now it is a curve object and not a mesh object. But we can convert it into mesh by using a node called fill curve. As you can see, our text curve has now become a text mesh. Let me also show you the topography. So you can see the topography is quite complex over here. If you select n-gons instead of triangles, so now the topography has become much less complex. Now I will extrude this mesh. For that we can simply use extrude mesh node. Press Shift A to search the node. Extrude mesh. Place it here between fill curve and output. You can see that our text has been extruded. You can change the extrusion with the help of this parameter. I'll use minus 0.1. Okay, so you can see that the top face of this text string or mesh is missing. So what we can do, we can combine the previous curve or mesh with this extruded mesh and join the geometry. I'll simply use the join geometry node and take out a branch from fill curve to join geometry. So now you can see that we have covered the top of this mesh which was open earlier. Alright, so now let's add some material to our text mesh. I will use two material, one for the top face, okay, and the other for the extruded mesh. Let's pull out the set material node. Place it over here for the top face. Copy it by pressing Shift D and place it over here. Now let's create the materials or textures for our text mesh. Just click over here in the side panel, material, then click on new. Let's select a color. Okay, and we can give it a name, text top. Now let's create the second material. Click over here, this plus icon, then click on new. Here again we can select a color and give it a name, extruded mesh. And now in this geometry nodes graph we will select our materials. So for the upper face of this text mesh we can select text top. Let me change it to rendered viewport shading. Right now I'm using EV render engine. And similarly for extruded mesh, we can select the second material. And now the task is to have a shiny reflection on top of this text. Okay, and it should move from left to right along the x-axis. So for that we will move on to the shading tab, and over here we have to work only with the text top material and not with the extruded mesh material, because the reflection will be on this material only. So let's select it. I'll pull out a gradient texture node, and now while selecting this node gradient texture, I'll press Ctrl T. So that will bring out these two nodes, texture coordinate and mapping. So these two nodes will help me in uh, creating that reflection and also animating that reflection or moving that reflection. Now between gradient texture and principal BSDF, I will also add one more node called color ramp, and connect the output of gradient texture over here to factor. And before connecting color ramp to your principal BSDF, just copy this color code, okay, and save it somewhere, because we will be using this same color over here in color ramp. So I'll just copy it. Now I will connect this. Now this lever of color ramp has this color, whitish color, okay, and we will change this color to the bluish color that we have just copied. Press enter. There you go. And let's do one more thing. Let's increase the roughness to maximum. And this particular lever has this black color, okay. So we will change this as well, but before that let's add one more lever in color ramp. All right, and let's change the color of this middle lever. Let's select some bright color like yellow. Okay, and again coming back to the leftmost lever, I will change the color from black to the blue color. Okay, so you can see that we have a texture where we kind of have this reflection, yellow color reflection on our blue colored text. However, one more thing we can do over here, we can change the interpolation from linear to constant. So now the transition will be immediate between the colors, right? Now, if you pay attention to this node mapping, if we change the value of x coordinate, you can see that the yellow color is moving across the text, right? And we can easily animate this. But if you have seen at the start of the video, I showed you the demo animation. There, the reflection was moving from the first character till the last character continuously. But over here, the reflection is moving on all the characters simultaneously. This is not what we want. We want the reflection to move across this word or text string. So for that, we'll go back to the geometry nodes, and we will add a node between fill curve and set material, that is realize instances. So this node will make this entire text string as one single instance. Otherwise, every character is a separate instance. So now if I go back to the shading tab and change the value, you can see that the reflection is moving across the entire text string. Right now it is quite wide, so we can change the width of this reflection. Yeah, if you drag this lever towards the yellow lever, you can change the width of the reflection. And then again, you can play around with this x coordinate in mapping. Now to be able to control this reflection movement from geometry nodes tab, we can use a node called store name attribute, and we can place it over here between realize instances and set material. Let's search for stored name attribute, and over here you can give any name, any variable. Let's call it x movement. Also copy this variable name. So this thing is connected to your set material for this texture text top. Now again, go back to shading, and over here pull out a branch and search for combine xyz. Basically we will change the value of x coordinate only and will keep y and z unchanged. And now drag another branch out of this x coordinate and search for attribute. Under this field name, paste that variable name x movement. Now your shading graph, okay, is connected with your geometry nodes graph. And if you change the value of this parameter, your shadow will move across the text string. Let's keep this value 0.7 and keep your mouse cursor on this field and press I. Okay, so now you have set a keyframe on the first frame. Let's drag it to 45th frame and change its value to 0.8, and again place your cursor on this field and press I. So this is the second keyframe that you have set on this frame number 45. Let's also reduce the number of total frames in this animation. Let's make it 50. Now I will hit play. There you go. So this is how you can animate a reflection on your text or any 3D object. And here we have used both geometry nodes to create this text mesh and shading nodes to create this reflection.